our members have connections to the other 4 secondary schools in Barrie. They are just as concerned about the proposed closing of Barrie Central as those of us who love this school. I personally have had the dubious pleasure of being the proverbial thorn in your side for the last 2 months. Was that my intention when I started and resurrected the campaign to save Barrie Central? No. My intention is and always will be to ensure that my 2 daughters and youngest son, along with their classmates who will be directly impacted by the closing of Barrie Central in 2016, have answers as to what their remaining high school careers will look like and where that time can be carried out. My hope and desire, and the hope and desire of our group, is to ensure that they and their fellow classmates graduate from Barrie Central, like thousands of others have before them. The question has been asked, where have we been for the last 4 years? Save Barrie Central was actually first started by our then yet-to-be-elected mayor, Jeff Lehman, and other alumni in 2009. The current group, as it is, began being heard in September of this year after the motion to close Barrie Central was given. Why now has been asked. Simply put, for the last 4 years or so, we have put our trust in a system that is flawed. We believe the administrators and those trustees who spoke up in regards to a partnership plan that would potentially save Barrie Central. We have watched the City of Barrie bend over backwards to accommodate the request of this board to make the lands around Barrie Central prime real estate that any developer would drool over. Our trust has been misplaced, as this plan seems to have failed us as parents, alumni, and the 750 plus current students, and all future students who have their hearts set on attending Barrie Central and graduating from it. Superintendent Sloan made mention last night this partnership agreement could have been a first in Ontario. Both he and Superintendent Jeff state that you have tried. I am here to ask you to allow the new Board of Trustees the chance to try one more time. Barrie Central is different. I think you can see that. Many hours have been spent on attempting to save it. I truly believe that if only a few more are spent, that 171 years of history can be saved, and Barrie students can choose to walk through its doors on their first day of grade 9 and graduate in grade 12. Does that mean the building? Not necessarily, but if it can be saved, and in turn save the taxpayers of Ontario millions of dollars, then we should make an attempt to do just that. During the request for interested parties and the request for proposal process over the last couple of years, many private and public entities have come forward to express their interest in helping to turn Barrie Central into the Centre for Educational Excellence. Many of those parties, by our own admissions, have been turned away before full talks could have been held with them. At least 3 interested parties, known to the public at the moment as the proponents, entered into more detailed talks with the board. That process was not a public process. It was held behind closed doors with all of its secrets kept hidden. These secrets have imploded within the community and have resulted in significant suspicion being directed to you, the Simcoe County District School Board. Through the Parents' Council at Barrie Central, we have requested that this information be made public under the Freedom of Information Act. We are still awaiting that information. Where specifically has this trust been broken? There are 3 key areas: financial, physical, and political. First, let's look at the financial. Over the last 10 to 15 years, the Simcoe County District School Board has been lacking in finances to effect repairs on its schools. This has led to some significant issues, from rotting rooftops, crumbling walls, falling concrete, windows that are broken, doors that won't work, bathrooms that have taps that don't turn on, heating and cooling systems that are failing, just to name a few of the major issues. These things are just in the 5 Barrie secondary schools. We haven't even taken the time to look at what the condition of the elementary schools are. The Simcoe County District School Board continues to ask for millions and millions of dollars to build new schools, with blame being shifted to the Ministry of Education, as this is what they want us to ask for. At what point in time has the board chosen to stand up and say, no, let's fix what we have? That would ultimately be the fiscally responsible thing to do. If your house roof was leaking, you wouldn't go to the bank and ask for a loan to tear down your home and build a new house. You would ask for funds to fix the roof. If they said no, you'd ask again. This is exactly what the board has done. They've just asked for money to tear down and build new. Is it time to ask the ministry directly as to why they keep saying spend millions to build new? Yes. Will you, the Simcoe County District School Board, support our request for those answers? The public needs to understand why the ministry is willing to allow one of the best schools in the province, in programs including music, languages, sports, just to name a few, to simply close its doors and cease to exist. The public deserves answers. The second aspect is the physical aspect. It has been stated many times by not just our group, but by members of the planning department of the city of Barrie, developers, and the mayor himself, all who have had extensive experience in dealing with issues before the Ontario Municipal Board, that the South Barrie Secondary School will not open in September 2016. There is a process that must be followed. No less than 105 appeals to the OMB have been made in regards to the land titled Hewitt's Creek Secondary Plan. Until these appeals have been dealt with and dispensed of, no one, no matter who they are or the money they have, would be able to build on this land. Superintendents Dance, Seamus, Sloan, and Jeff attended our meeting last night. We had a very open and good dialogue in regards to this process. Excuse me. They attempted to cloud the issues and timelines by telling us that they are not accurate, that everyone, including Mayor Lehman himself, are lying and the school will open. I spoke with members of the OMB today to ensure that these timelines that we have seen and published are accurate. The OMB staff stated clearly that yes, they were reasonable, and assured me that there are still 105 open appeals, of which, if not all, of which some, if not all, will begin the pre-hearing stage on January 5th or 6th of 2015. If mediation has taken place, which the superintendent stated has between the board and the other parties, then the appeals surrounding the Simcoe County District School Board may very well be completed and released in January. However, all of the remaining appeals must be dealt with first, and therefore the secondary plan cannot move ahead until that has been accomplished. So despite Superintendent Jeff and Nance's assurances that they are moving full steam ahead with the new school, we are still firmly of the opinion, given factual evidence, that this school will not open in September 2016. There are several concerns and questions that arise out of that. And the other consideration is the proposed addition to Barrie North. The funds have yet to be declared available for that project by the ministry. All in all, a significant attendance crisis is adding up for September 2016 if Barrie Central's doors are closed. Where will the Barrie Central students be housed? One of the answers given by the superintendents yesterday was the use of portables. We asked the superintendents how many would be involved. The answer was given at minimum 15 portables will be placed in Innisdale, making a total amount at Innisdale with the current 19, no less than 34.
Sorry to interrupt, but you have 1 minute left.
Thank you. Barrie North would possibly require 5 to 6 to be placed. This is of great concern to the students and parents. The third area of concern is the political environment. The public relations of this board are in shambles due to several actions, both recent and past. Most recently, and the main reason why we are here this evening, is the motions brought forward on November 5th to the Business and Facilities Committee meeting. It has been told to us by the superintendents last night that these motions have been carried out and brought forward with prior knowledge. We are asking you tonight to do the right thing and decline those motions and table them and allow the new Board of Trustees to deal with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There isn't enough time. There's 2 seconds and it's about to go. So I thank you very much for your presentation. And there it is. I will acknowledge that I have in front of me also a petition. Yes. And as the chair of the board, I have 3 options with the delegation. I can receive it as information. I can refer it to the Director of Education for review and appropriate action. And I can refer the matter to a standing committee for review and a report. And I can tell you that I will be receiving it as information.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. So the next one is Dr. Travis Doucette. And so I'll remind you that the same rules apply. You have 10 minutes inclusive of questions. I will be timing it. I will be holding up my orange card with 2 minutes. And when you're ready, please go ahead.
Good evening, Chairman. My name is Dr. Travis Doucette, and I want to thank you and the board for the opportunity to speak this evening. I want to begin this evening by extending my sincere thanks to the Board of Trustees for their tireless efforts pertaining to Barrie Central Collegiate. As both an educator and alumnus of Central, I've been very interested in this process, and I've appreciated the time the trustees have taken to speak with me both over the phone and through email. For some of the trustees, Barrie Central has been a focal point of board discussions for nearly a decade. Trustees who represent other schools and communities outside of Barrie have had to patiently endure elongated discussions and perhaps sacrifice time spent representing their schools in favor of discussing details pertaining to the closure of Simcoe County's oldest institution. The closing of Central has demanded a tremendous amount of time and energy from this board. Businessmen and women who sit as trustees on this board have had to suddenly become knowledgeable of intricate details pertaining to boiler systems and cooling units. Demands that certainly have my empathy. Right or wrong, this issue, however, has become deeply personal, both to trustees and to concerned members of the public, as evidenced by some of the correspondence that has come my way. Because school closures tend to bring out the worst in everyone, I know some trustees sitting here this evening have been subject to harsh criticism. In some cases, the criticism has been unwarranted, and the power of nostalgia has incited some to act unfairly. I want to acknowledge the personal sacrifices many trustees have made, as well as their sincere desire to do what they feel is best for our students. Conversely, this process too has exhausted the public, and this board has missed opportunities to adequately and appropriately respond in ways that diffuse suspicion. Community groups that have evolved to petition the closing of Central have not benefited from face-to-face communication with their trustees. The system is broken down. Emotion, passion, and heated rhetoric have unfortunately compromised sound judgment and assessment. So now we're gathered here tonight with an agenda that metaphorically seeks to put the last nail in the coffin in the process to close Barrie Central Collegiate. For many sitting in this room, this will be your legacy, completing this task and setting the stage for a new South End school. But at what cost? I find it concerning that the motion to sell Barrie Central Collegiate was put forth by a trustee without an official documented recommendation from the board. Yet some of the superintendents have publicly indicated that they were aware that the motion was going to be made. Additionally, I find it perplexing that the motion to sell the school did not come from a Barrie trustee, as one would expect. To further the point, historically speaking with this board, it is an anomaly to put a school on the market and potentially have it sold before it actually closes, let alone make this vital decision with a board of trustees that is set to expire in 2 days. Indeed, it's challenging to understand why this board is determined to push through a multi-million-dollar consolidation plan 2 business days before a new board is sworn in. Apart from the suspicion that speaks to the public, this is not the ethically and fiscally responsible choice for a decision of this magnitude when the incoming board will have to carry out the ramifications and the implementation of this decision. They should be the ones to both make and carry out this decision. The truth of the matter is this: this process has taken a tiring toll on everyone. Rousing rhetoric, as evidenced on both sides, has taken the place of sense and sensibility. The result has been a consolidation plan that is poised to fail in providing the best for our students. Constituents from the public, including students, alumni, community groups, former trustees, and even the mayor of Barrie and our MPP have publicly and clearly voiced their disapproval of this consolidation plan and their desire to fight for a better plan. And I quote, "Trustees, we are writing you today to advise you of our ongoing willingness as Barrie elected officials to advocate at Queen's Park for capital funding for the proposed innovative partnership that will result in a new building for Barrie Central Collegiate. We understand the board may have the opportunity to reconsider the decision to close the school and instead pursue the partnership. If this occurs, we are committed to working to secure funding by the Ministry of Education for an acceptable business plan for the replacement school. We believe that the proposed partnership is truly unique opportunity for a learning environment that would be unparalleled in terms of an innovative model for shared services and spaces. It will save taxpayers millions of dollars, and more importantly, could be the kind of visionary scholastic environment that becomes an example across the province. It would also be an exciting major redevelopment project with wide-ranging benefits for the downtown Barrie community. We recognize the board's decision regarding the school is yours to make, and hope that you will take our commitment to support the partnership into account as you consider the next steps of this process. We urge you to pursue this exciting vision. If the board chooses this partnership path, we will be pleased to work at Queen's Park to try to make it a reality. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. We would be happy to meet with you to discuss the proposal in more detail. We believe this would be a good compromise for all the taxpayers in Barrie and Simcoe County. Regards, signed Mayor Jeff Lehman and MPP Ann Hogarth, end quote. We need our trustees to listen and to not rush and to push through a consolidation plan that can be improved upon to better serve our students and community. We need our elected officials to hold fast to their responsibility to represent the public on this issue. You've been elected to represent the people, not a board, not a bureaucracy, but the people. From both an ethical and fiscal standpoint, the choice is clear, really clear, crystal clear. Leave this decision to the incoming board. By doing this, you will accomplish three things. And as fellow educators, I'm sure you'll appreciate the 1, 2, 3 analogy. Here's number one. You will diffuse suspicion in the eyes of the public and eliminate any accusations of defiance towards the mayor, alumni, students, and community groups. Number two, you will provide opportunities for better communication and partnerships to happen between the City of Barrie, surrounding communities, the public, and their trustees regarding the specific details pertaining to this consolidation plan. Number three, outgoing trustees will have an integral legacy by allowing the incoming board to make a significant multi-million-dollar decision they will have to own and manage instead of making it for them and leaving them with the consequences. I am pleading with this board tonight to consider the opportunity they have before them, to win with the public, to win with the students by allowing this decision to be made by those who will have to own it. Ethically, folks, this is the right thing to do. We are all here tonight because we believe our students deserve the best. Let's wait and implement the best plan in the best way at the best time. Good things come to those who wait. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Doucette. We do have a minute and 40 seconds if there is any questions of clarification only. Trustee Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Doucette, could you explain to me, when you talked about the process of selling the property prior to students leaving school, you said it was an anomaly. Can you tell me what kind of research or history you looked into to see how it was classified as that?
Absolutely. As Amy mentioned earlier, Superintendent Jeffs and Dance were very helpful in coming to our meeting last night, and we asked them directly if this was indeed an anomaly, and they were quick to tell us that it was out of the ordinary, and they offered additional information saying that Barrie Central was unique.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. And again, I will be receiving this submission as information, so thank you. moving on to the next item, which is recommendations for action. D1, report from the full year review, AAR, Barry North Collegiate Institute in Elmville District High School, dated November 5th, 2014. Is there a mover for that motion? Thank you, Trustee Lay, and seconded by Trustee Williams. Thank you. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. Thank you. Number 2, that the board approve the capital plan projects as set out in report number BFD2 2014 capital priority project list, consolidation, efficiency and modernization, dated November 5th, 2014. Is there a mover for that? Trustee Locke, thank you. Trustee Lloyd, and seconded by Trustee Locke. Any questions or comments on that? Trustee Smith, please.
Through you, Madam Mr. Chair. I don't actually have the report in front of me, but my memory says that this is the priorities list for the capital plan going forward. And I just wanted to clarify that I'm speaking to the right. I am, okay. And I am concerned about this specific item because I believe this is normally something that the new board coming forward would be dealing with. And because we haven't actually had the process the same way we've had it in the past, where we had the capital plan presented as a whole and brought forward. So I'm concerned that some of this is housekeeping. I grant you, things have been taken off that have been either approved or classified as not happening. But I'm not sure that the whole thing should be put through tonight. Perhaps this should in fact be held to the new capital plan. So I was wondering if we could maybe get a comment from staff as to why we are doing this so early in this cycle, as opposed to waiting until we had the capital plan on the table and then looking at it and then approving the priority list at that time.
Thank you for that. I'll turn to Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Peacock, to Trustee Smith, the revised capital priorities list is coming forward at this time in order to meet with what we expect to be a call for capital priorities coming forward in the new year. The capital plan we do not anticipate, because of the status of the new board coming in, to be fully adopted until February. And we've been given indication from ministry staff that they will be making a capital priorities call out. And we wanted to have an updated list that included the passed by the board so that we have no impediments to being approved at that level. The ministry has indicated to us through this board with D08, previous ministry memo, that they were going to be going into us asking for that consolidation fund, which we applied to for 2 projects, one Barry North, the consolidation project there, and the other is a new school, or the preferred option of the board, new school in Midland, on 2 ARCs. And if those are approved, are not approved, then we still apply for it through capital priorities. The other 2 projects on this list are Elmville District School, which remains on the capital priorities list, and like several of our projects we continue to pursue, and a new one, Alice East Public School, responding to the growth needs that have arisen in Alliston in a very short time period. So we believe it's prudent to have a refreshed list so the ministry is able to, we can develop the business cases for that when the call comes, which we anticipate shortly, and then we will be bringing forward a new capital priorities list through the capital plan as per our...
Vice Chair Locke.
Thank you, Chair Peacock. And I just wanted to reiterate what Superintendent Dance just said. I know that the Winnipeg situation certainly does not want to wait for the new board. And if we have an opportunity to get that involved, I know that there are thousands of people who would prefer it now than later.
Thank you for that. So Trustee North, please.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to echo similar comments cycle for capital projects and miss out on the possible funding of an additional school there. There's a new going to alleviate that ASAP, so I do not want to miss that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we do have a mover and a seconder. So, and I have read it. So I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. Item number 3, that the board approve that Hyde Park Public School be included in the Southeast Barrie Elementary Attendance Area Review as set out in report number BFD3, Southeast Barrie Elementary Attendance Area Review, AAR, 2014-2015 school year, dated November 5th, 2014. And I'm looking for a mover for that. Trustee Williams, thank you, and seconded by Trustee Mayen, thank you. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. The next motion is that the board declare that the Barrie Central Collegiate Institute Secondary School site, effective July 1st, 2016, will no longer be required for the purposes of the board dated November 5th, 2014. Is there a mover for that motion? Thank you. Trustee Lloyd, seconded. Trustee Law, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on that? Trustee Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this has been a pretty big issue in a lot of people's lives this past month. It was a surprise for the public and a surprise for some trustees. I'm hearing now that there was perhaps a knowledge prior to that committee meeting where these motions before that are there in sequence came to the table. So there is really no reason that it wasn't necessarily a report for the motions. And I'm really concerned that there is no report for these motions. We have a historic plan where we normally have a school, if it's closed, if we go through an arc, it's closed, the students are transitioned, and after they are transitioned, and if the building is not utilized for some other purpose, we then sell the property. And this time we have some significant problems. We have a new school, we've been funded for the South, which may or may not be ready in 2016. In fact, the mayor of the city of Barrie and the local MPP have told us that it won't be ready. And to some degree, even if we sit there and say, well, they could be right or they could be wrong, the question still remains that we aren't sure that the school will be ready in 2016. So I think we have to be as prudent as opposed to just going forward because it's easier to go forward. I'm very concerned that we've always had reports on the closing of the school. In fact, there's a long history of it. In fact, last September, we had 3 come through for smaller schools. They came to closed session. In closed session, we were discussed with the reports, and then we brought them to open. Again, driven by staff. So I guess I've got some real concerns over the fact that we do need to treat the public with some, I think, great respect as far as the school is concerned. It's part of the community. And I'm not arguing that right now that it should not be closed. I mean, that's passed. I get that. The new board, if it chooses, could also put it back on the capital plan when it finally gets to the board. The new board can do all sorts of interesting things. But if we sell the property, when the students are still in there are many things that can go wrong. And one of the things that can go wrong is that the school in the South won't be ready. Another thing that could go wrong is the Barrie North doesn't get the money. And in fact, maybe this community will lobby against Barrie North getting the money simply because it will actually cause Barrie Central to close. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong. There's information we've recently discovered that the issue around the boilers in the Barrie Central School are actually apparently in good condition. Something that we'd all been told for many years, they were really on the last legs. So we haven't had a proper report on the condition of the school, given the recent analysis by, I'm going to call it TSSA or T, I'm not going to get the right initials, but I know everybody knows what I'm talking about. I think that's really crucial. We've got a school that really isn't going to fall apart in a second. It's got some sturdy bones still to it. And we have a situation where we probably should not be selling this school right now, or not necessarily selling it, but putting it on the market and declaring it surplus. And I think, in fact, our best buck, I know I've heard people talk about strike while the iron is hot. Well, there's no irons in the oven. In fact, it's not, there's no offers on the table. There's nothing to sell this school to until we go through the process that's required by, and I don't remember the regulation number, but it's for something other. And we are required to do that. So we are not going to make any great profit off this. In fact, we could lose our shirts because we are going to have to figure out what to do with these children. It's going to be very expensive if we do sell the school property and we have to house them and we don't get the money for the Barrie North and we don't get the South School up and running in time. And I'm very concerned. I don't think it's appropriate to be doing this. I think that it belongs to the next board just as it belongs to every situation where there's a cycle. The cycle for this particular item is to let this go until the students leave the building in 2016, if staff is correct, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to be correct in this discussion. They still should not be putting this on the market until 2016. So I'm going to actually ask, just so I don't forget, for recorded votes on the next 4 motions. I think it's really important that we talk about the fairness to the public, to give them enough information in advance to make proper input to the board, and not providing them with a report to review any proper analysis is, I don't think, fair. I don't think it's even fair to me as a trustee to not give me a proper report, especially since it's 2 weeks later and I still don't have a report. And I believe that that is a reasonable business behavior, to have a documented reason why you were selling a property, just as we have always had. So I'm going to ask you not to vote down these motions. Quite the opposite. I'm going to ask you not to put them on the table. I get that at some point this may become a solution that's required. And I get that you don't want to defeat it. I get that. But how about walking away from this right now? Just walking away and saying, okay, that does make sense. What she's saying does make sense. This is what we've always done. It's a reasonable solution. Let's wait 2 years to when the children leave the building, because that's what the staff is telling us. And let's just wait. And we can do that by simply not putting the motions on the table and going forward with the meeting.
Thank you for those comments. So just so everybody's aware, I do have a mover and a seconder. It is ownership of the table. And my next speaker is Trustee Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The issue around sale of school is sort of part of the issues that when boards make decisions about closures that come up. Now, I guess my concern is, comments that, well, there's no offers, there's nothing. I don't believe that the board receives offers for schools in that, someone coming or organization or a private corporation coming to the board or to the facilities to say, hey, if you ever put that school up for sale, contact me first or something like that. I don't believe that happens until we have to trigger through motion that a sale or property is for sale. So to say that, where are these offers, whatever, frankly, you cannot receive them in an official capacity because of the regulatory framework about school properties being sold, because there's a hierarchy. We have to trigger that a property is for sale. So that's one component part. Another component part, I guess I just wanted to comment on about leaving this decision, or a motion to lay on the table could come. It takes precedence over moving and seconding this recommendation. But leaving for the next, well, you know, I have some troubles with that sort of scenario in that the next board is then 5 years away from when the ARC took place. The prior board to this board made a decision to have an ARC about Barrie Central. Then this current board was involved in that ARC. And then motions, 8 motions came to this table in May 2011 about the ARC. And it's frustrating that we made a unique decision that we're going to look for partnerships for this school, and then if they are not found by this certain date, then the closure will occur. And that was a very unique decision. I don't think in my tenure, and I've only been around since '98, that the board made a decision like that. A concern I had at the time was that if you're going to do a partnership, to put it out May 2011, let's by September 30th, 2014, I thought 3 years is too long. That's too long to try to get a partnership ready and to get back to board and go forward. Because then the further motions were about if it can't be found, then in 2016, Barrie Central will close. So such a long process, such a frustrating process for the community. I didn't agree with it, but that was the will of the table, and then now we're at 2014. So the issue about selling the lands prior to the board, the administration coming to us, because basically they come to the table and say, okay, time to sell, put it up for sale. That's typical, but the fact that it came from the table as a notice of a motion during the committee, I guess that's another unique, unusual thing about this ARC, this culmination of the ARC. I look at it as such. And I don't think that it's unusual or surreptitious to try to say we're trying to get ahead of the process or whatever. What happens if we can't accommodate the children that are attending this school because another school is not ready and we've sold the land? Oh, well, absolutely. I would think that our staff has the expertise to write in the offer that you're not taking over this property until such a date that it goes beyond that date. Well, it's going to go beyond that date. You'll have to wait to take possession. Obviously, if that is a problem, and possibly, I don't know the OMB situation, because buying land for the Seven School is on the issues of the OMB between Barrie and Annandale, I forget the term. You know, if something happens like that, obviously our staff is not going to allow a situation that our children have nowhere to go. They've never done that. They have expertise in these issues about accommodating students. And anybody who's been around here, around Barrie knows Innistale, how many portables have been on Innistale at times, waiting for children to be accommodated. Way past 20, probably up to 30. Unfortunately, I wish they bought the land where the foliage sits, because they probably would have done a huge addition to Innistale back on. But frankly, the issue about selling the land and what if it's sold, what if the children aren't ready to go somewhere else because of building issues, I don't have any fear about, because that's something that I know that our staff is more than capable of handling in any offer of sale about taking possession. So I think that's important. But I believe that going forward to say to the next board, you take care of this, let's hold, to me is showing total disrespect for the ARC of 2010-11. And I just cannot sit here as being a member of the next board to deal with that situation. So I believe that, you know, I spoke about my concerns, saying, hey, I haven't seen the report, this is unusual. Well, I'm glad in committee you do have that discussion, because now it comes to the board, you have reflection, and frankly, this is, again, a unique case. I cannot think of another ARC situation in this board in contemporary history that has been the same sort of outcomes.
Thank you. My next speaker is Trustee Lloyd, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. I think there's clarification needs to be made on a couple of things, and in particular the letter that we received from Mayor Lehman and MPP Hogarth. I think it's quite fascinating that MPP Hogarth would sign this letter as a member of the Liberal Party, considering the Liberal government has turned down the school twice for funding, and that the current capital funding is with respect to consolidations. So I'm not sure if she's aware of different capital funding than the rest of us are and that staff are, or she's aware of new information, or how she feels that we would garner funding from her government, considering that they've announced they want to cut $500 million from education funding, they want to close more than 600 half-empty schools, and some of the capital funding available is with respect to consolidations. Also in this letter, there's reference to the fact that we're going to reconsider the decision to close the school and instead pursue a partnership. I think it's very important for people to recognize that there is no partnership and there is no potential partnership. I think if there was anything further to happen, we would have to restart the whole RFP process all again, because the RFP process has now closed. So there is no partnership, there is no potential partnership, and I think it's truly unfortunate that Trustee Smith failed to attend the final meeting that we had with the proponents, because we had great discussion with those proponents, we had great sharing of information. There was significant different information than the first meeting we had with the proponents that many of the members at this table are aware of and are fully aware of. And yes, it's unfortunate we can't share that information, but we are bound by a confidentiality agreement and we can't share it. That said, we are elected by the public to make decisions with respect to this matter. That responsibility has been entrusted to us based upon the information that we have and that we're aware of. Yes, it's in a unique situation. Would I put the same motion forward with respect to OD Park if I thought there was an opportunity currently available on that site that would benefit the community of Aurelia and surrounding townships? I most certainly would. But at this point in time, there is not an opportunity like there is in Barrie. So I would say that the trustees sitting at this table do have information that we believe, or I strongly believe, would benefit the city of Barrie, that would make an opportunity out of a not so difficult, or a not so good situation with respect to Barrie Central, and I think it's important that we move that forward. We may not have done it in the past, that doesn't mean we can't do it in the future. And we're all well aware as trustees that we can bring any motion forward during board or committee that's germane to a report that we received from staff. We did receive a report from staff, and as such we are permitted to make a motion with respect to that report. So it's not out of line and it's not out of order. I don't believe this decision will affect the students in any way, shape, or form. Whether the student is sold or not, the discussions and negotiations will go on behind the scenes. In committee, we discussed the fact very clearly that any offer would be conditional upon the school closing. So if the situation with respect to the population of the city of Barrie, there is some drastic incident occurs, or we don't get capital funding as proposed, the school we can delay, could delay the school if it was required, and as such delay the closing of any offer on the site. So I think it's important that we look at what the opportunity is there. The school will be closing. That has already been determined. It was determined in motions in 2011 that if we did not find a partnership, the school would close. I believe the ministry is well aware of what has transpired. We are all well aware of the letter from the ministry declining an administrative review of the ARC decision from back in 2011. So things are moving forward. So I truly believe that there is a great opportunity here for the city of Barrie on this property, and I think it needs to move forward. Thank you.
My next speaker is Trustee North.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. And I did have an opportunity to speak with MVP Hogarth for probably 20-25 minutes this afternoon. Had a very good conversation with her, and there were a couple things that came out of that conversation that I thought were key and very important for folks to know. MPP Hogarth, despite being aware of one way or another some of the details of the partnership proposal put forward, was not aware of any dollar amounts, if any, put forward by the proponents. I found that interesting to know that she had some information, but not all the information. Was also not aware of the letter from Davis College denying the appeal to the closure of BCC, based largely on the fact that that decision was made as Trustee Lloyd said, 3 years ago. This is nothing new. And she did acknowledge, both in her letter and verbally to me, that this decision was ours to make, and not the ministry. So it seems like there's maybe some folks not talking to one another down there before letters come out, which is unfortunate. But I thought those two key points were important for the table to have. And this has been a long process. This is not rushing this through, and not leading to the next board. This issue was kicking around basically as I arrived here in 2003. It was sort of coming our way through capital plan, wanting to renew that facility and so on. And here we are. And I agree with Trustee Armstrong as far as the timeline. I think in reflection, I don't think 3 years is a great idea to have something expanded. If I was ever back here again faced with a similar situation, I don't think I would ever allow a 3-year. Throughout this process, we've heard, there's all these people who are interested in this. It's been a long run, and I've seen one that has come forward, and unfortunately, not all the T's are crossed and not all the I's are.
Okay, and my final speaker is Trustee Smith. And I'm going to call the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it because I'm obviously speaking to a different side of the issue. I just wanted to clarify that we are talking about selling, not closing. And that's where the arguments start getting kind of convoluted sometimes, that the issue was decided in NARC, but it is not common to sell the property while students are still in the school, ever. And there's actually no need for it. Trustee Lloyd commented about a meeting that I missed because I was at an all candidates meeting in Barrie that night. And I'd received the reports. I had in fact called the director after the meeting to ask her what happened at the meeting, if anything special happened at the meeting. And I was told nothing had. And when the newspaper reports came out, I asked again, I called the director again, I said, is there something I don't know about? Is there some offer? Because it looks like that in the paper. And the director told me, no, exactly what she told me the first time. So if there is something that I don't know about, I'd like someone to tell me about it. And I believe the director would have told me honestly when I asked her a question. So I think we've got to stop playing this idea that there's something out there. There is nothing out there. There's nothing out there. Really? There's nothing out there for anybody. And I think that that's really important for us to recognize. This is closing a school and selling a school. And this is selling it, not closing it. And I want to make those points very clear because I find it insulting to be treated like that, to be honest, Trustee Lloyd, at a table. So I'm saying I understand your perspective, but I wish you would also understand mine. And I am very concerned that the public doesn't feel confident in this decision. And I think it's important that we as trustees take on that responsibility to represent the public, not just administration, especially when I don't have a report.
Thank you very much for that comment. So I'm moving on. We do have a mover and a seconder for that motion. The next four are recorded. Trustee Smith asked for the last four to be recorded.
No, the next four, not the last one,
The next four.
There are four.
Okay, so including this one. Okay, so it will be a recorded vote. And I'll turn it over to Director Walls.
A recorded vote has been requested on the motion in front of us. I would ask that those in favor of the motion, would you now please stand? Trustee Black, Trustee Lay, Vice Chair Locke, Chair Beacock, Trustee Williams, Trustee Armstrong, Trustee Main, Trustee Lloyd, Trustee North. Would those all opposed, please stand. Trustee Smith. The motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next motion, which is number 5. And it reads that the board approve the disposition of Barrie Central Collegiate Institute Secondary School site in accordance with Ontario Regulation 444/98, with the closing date of the sale to take place after July 1st, 2016, dated November 5th, 2014. So I'm looking for a mover, Vice Chair Locke, and seconder, Trustee North. Any questions or comments? Trustee Lloyd, please.
I just would like, probably Superintendent Dance, if you can just clarify with respect to this and the regulation 44498, that any sale would be conditional upon the school closing, the actual closing. So we can move forward with the disposition as per that, conditional upon that.
Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Peacock to Trustee Lloyd, that's correct. You cannot sell a school until after it is closed.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, I have a mover and a second. When asked for a recorded vote, I will turn it over to Director Wallace, please.
A recorded vote has been requested on the motion that is currently on the table. I would ask that all those in favor of the motion, would you please stand? Trustee Black, Trustee Lay, Trustee Locke, Chair Peacock, Trustee Williams, Trustee Armstrong, Trustee May, Trustee Lloyd, Trustee North. Would all those opposed please stand? Trustee Smith. The motion is carried.
Thank you. The next motion, number 6, is that the board declare that the Prince of Wales Public School site will no longer be required for the purposes by the board dated November 5th, 2014. Motion, please. Thank you, Trustee Lloyd. Seconded by Trustee Locke. Questions or comments? Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, it has been a recorded vote. It is moved that the Speaker Walsh.
A recorded vote has been requested. The motion currently on the table. Those for the motion, please stand. Trustee Black, Trustee Lay, Vice Chair Locke, Chair Peacock, Trustee Williams, Trustee Armstrong, Trustee May, Trustee Lloyd, Trustee North. Would all those opposed please stand? Trustee Smith. The motion is carried.
Thank you. The next motion is number 7, that the board approve the disposition of the Prince of Wales Public School site in accordance with Ontario Regulation 444/98, dated November 5th, 2014. I'm looking for a mover for that motion. Trustee North, thank you. Seconded by Trustee Williams. Thank you. Any questions or comments on that? Trustee Lay, please.
Thank you, Chair Peacock, and through you address to Superintendent Dance. What would be the intention of putting Prince of Wales property up for sale, because we're in a very different situation with Prince of Wales, and would you tie that to the Barrie Central property?
Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Peacock to Trustee Leah. That's something when both are in the situation that they're moving towards, with recommendations and decisions tonight, would certainly be something we'd be looking at the package as being a possible package, but we would certainly have to explore those opportunities as well. At this time, Prince of Wales, is some staff may be aware of, or trustees may be aware of, is in use right now for storage, and also it's home to a couple of our regional operations supervisors in order to maintain it in a proper manner, and it could be something that we start to transition for that as well, but certainly packaging it with a larger property, certainly the intention we're going through the whole process that we have concluded.
Thank you for that. I have trustee Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the issues with Prince of Wales is it's a little bit different actually than Barrie Central, because it's actually on the Heritage Registry for the city of Barrie. And in fact, I'm actually really proud of that one because that was one I pushed through when I was on Heritage Barrie. And it also has potential to be designated if the city wants to. In fact, the other property could also be designated as historic sites within the city. Have we had any discussion with people about the value of properties that are designated or on heritage listings? Has the city said that they would continue with that listing or allow for its demolition, or have any conversations like that?
Superintendent Dance, please.
Thank you, through your chair, Peacock, to trustee Smith. We have had appraisals completed on both properties. One package, for example, was completed just as part of our going into the RFP process in order to produce that, and that's part of the financial documentation that we presented to proponents. It would certainly be something that we have not had any discussions about where it lies on the registry. We know that Prince of Wales is on the registry, but we haven't had any conversations about demolition at this point, or permission to.
Follow up, trustee Smith, please.
So I do want to point out to the board that the city of Barrie can, in fact, at any meeting, decide to determine that that building is designated, which has been recommended to do for many, many years. So I just point that out, and the concern here is I think this would have made more sense to be discussing this with the city in advance, seeing if there was opportunities to retain maybe even facades or something and work with them. But I think in this case, you may actually have a fairly large problem when this goes up for sale.
Thank you for that. So I have no more speakers. I do have a mover and a second. It is a requested recorded vote, so I will turn it over to Director Wallace.
Thank you, Chair Peacock. A recorded vote has been requested on the motion that is currently on the table. I would ask that all those in favor of the motion, would you now please stand? Trustee Black, Trustee Lay, Vice Chair Locke, Chair Peacock, Trustee Williams, Trustee Armstrong, Trustee Main, Trustee Lloyd, Trustee North. Would all those opposed please stand? Trustee Smith. The motion is carried.
Thank you. And the final motion from the Business and Facilities is number 8. And it is that the board approve that trustee expenses be posted on the board website on an annual basis following the approval of the audited financial statements. This is not a recorded vote. As a mover for that, trustee North. Thank you, seconder. Thank you, trustee Black. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. That concludes that portion of our agenda, and I'm wondering if people might entertain a 10-minute break, or if you wish to 10 minutes. So can I have a motion? Thank you, trustee Floyd, seconded by trustee Williams. All those in favor of a 10-minute break? We'll be back here at 10 to 9.